Before we begin, I want you to do something simple. If content like this helps you grow, if Musashi's philosophy pushes you to think differently, then subscribe to the channel. Not for me, but for you. This journey of becoming unshakably confident is long, and you shouldn't walk it alone. Now, let's begin. Confidence is one of the most misunderstood forces in the modern world. People think it's a feeling, a surge of energy, a moment of inspiration that suddenly washes over you. They think confidence comes from charisma, talent, or a lucky break. But if you could step into the mind of Miyamoto Musashi, the man who never lost a duel, you'd discover that the truth is far more brutal, far more honest, and far more liberating. Musashi didn't become confident because he felt good about himself. He didn't sit under a cherry blossom tree whispering affirmations or telling himself he was great. His confidence wasn't a mood or a spark of motivation. It was something forged, like steel under relentless heat and pressure. It was the byproduct of facing reality with such honesty that most people today would break under the weight of it. To understand how Musashi built his confidence, you have to imagine him not as a legendary swordsman with statues and books in his honor, but as a young boy standing in the dirt, holding a weapon he barely knew how to use, trembling not from fear of death, but from fear of inadequacy. That boy, like all of us, faced the same question we face today. Am I enough? Musashi discovered early that this question is a trap. The moment you try to answer it, you hand over your power to something external, to someone's approval, someone's judgment, someone's standard. Confidence built on feeling like you're enough is fragile. Confidence built on being willing to face who you are without flinching is indestructible. Most people don't realize is that Musashi's strength came from studying his weaknesses, not hiding them. He trained like a man preparing for war against his own excuses. He paid attention to the places his mind tried to hide from, the hesitation in his grip, the anger that flared too quickly, the instinct to impress, the fear of losing control. Every flaw became a doorway. Every insecurity became a map. What others would deny, he dissected. What others avoided, he approached. When he wrote, "Know yourself and know your enemy," he wasn't talking about some philosophical riddle. He meant something painfully literal. You cannot cut through an opponent until you have cut through your illusions. You cannot defeat another until you stop lying to yourself. The courage to face the truth is the birthplace of confidence. But here's the paradox. Musashi wasn't fearless. He wasn't born brave. His early writings show a young man haunted by doubt, restless with uncertainty, overwhelmed by the pressure to prove himself. What made him different wasn't the absence of doubt, but what he did with it. Most people treat doubt like a poison. Musashi treated it like a compass. Doubt pointed toward the areas he needed to strengthen, sharpen, refine. Where others saw reasons to retreat, he saw invitations to grow. Modern neuroscience confirms this. When you expose yourself intentionally to what scares you, your brain rewires itself. Neural pathways strengthen. Stress responses weaken. You literally become someone capable of handling more. Musashi stumbled onto this centuries before science could explain it. He stepped into fear not because he enjoyed suffering, but because he wanted to become a person who could stand tall regardless of it. One of the most misunderstood aspects of confidence is how people think it comes from succeeding. Musashi learned the opposite. Confidence comes from surviving the moments you thought would break you. He believed the greatest strength a human can have is the strength to remain steady when the world inside you feels unstable. Instead of trying to eliminate discomfort, he leaned into it. He sought out difficult terrain. He fought opponents stronger than him. He tested new weapons he wasn't good at. He let himself be bad at things in public, not to humiliate himself, but to inoculate his mind against embarrassment. Because here's the truth Musashi discovered. The fear of looking foolish is more paralyzing than the fear of failure. When you become comfortable with imperfection, when you stop needing to present yourself as flawless, you become untouchable. No comment can shake you. No criticism can derail you. No audience can intimidate you. Musashi trained himself to feel no shame in being a beginner. That is why he became a master. There's a story from his middle years where he would deliberately take on challenges that made no sense to anyone watching. Walking long distances barefoot, holding uncomfortable postures for hours, practicing in extreme weather. It wasn't about building strength. It wasn't about building technique. It was about building self-respect. Every time you endure something difficult that you chose willingly, you amplify the voice inside you that says, "I can handle this." And that voice becomes your foundation. Confidence doesn't come from achievements. It comes from evidence. It comes from proving to yourself again and again that you can do hard things, that you won't run from discomfort, that you don't need perfection to take action. Musashi believed confidence grew when you stopped protecting your ego and started protecting your integrity. He also understood something else modern people forget. Solitude is a weapon. He isolated himself not to escape society. First, it's the people involved. Second, it's the people who understand your problems best and help. Third, it's the people focused on their confidence and not their actions. It's demonstrated solitude with you. Your organization will promptly drive action. As you are listening, I thank you for being with us. You have never been abandoned, so understand to please repeat the action. I'll see you very soon. But to strengthen his ability, this is the heart of Musashi's brutally honest approach. Confidence is not a performance. Confidence is clarity. The clearer you are about who you are and what you can handle, the less you need the world to reassure you. This clarity comes from struggle, introspection, discipline, and self-honesty. Not hype, not motivation, not pretending. The modern world teaches people to chase validation. Musashi teaches us to chase truth. The modern world encourages people to seek safety. Musashi encourages us to embrace challenge. The modern world praises confidence as a social advantage. Musashi reveals confidence as a spiritual discipline. He wasn't building confidence to impress anyone. He was building confidence so nothing could disturb his inner equilibrium. There's a specific shift in his philosophy that reveals everything. Musashi stopped asking, "What will happen if I fail?" and started asking, "What will happen if I never try?" He stopped basing decisions on fear of consequences and began basing them on alignment with his purpose. When you live like this, confidence stops being something you try to feel. It becomes the natural result of living honestly. But Musashi understood something even deeper. The deadliest opponent you will ever face isn't the one standing in front of you. It's the version of yourself you've allowed to become comfortable, complacent, fragile. Confidence dies in comfort. Confidence deteriorates in avoidance. Confidence decays in people who let fear negotiate the terms of their life. That is why Musashi's philosophy feels brutal today, because he forces you to confront the ways you've been protecting your ego instead of your potential. He forces you to face the truth that real confidence requires sacrifice. You must sacrifice comfort. You must sacrifice the illusion of control. you must sacrifice the idea that confidence should feel good. Musashi discovered the great paradox of inner strength. The more honest you are about your limitations, the more limitless you become. Because once you see your weaknesses clearly, they stop controlling you. Once you understand your fears, they stop steering your actions. Once you embrace discomfort, it stops intimidating you. This isn't the end of the lesson, but this is where the transformation begins. When you stop pretending to be confident and start earning it. When you stop waiting for permission and start proving to yourself who you are. As Musashi grew older, the world expected him to mellow, to settle into his legacy, to rest on the reputation he had carved with the edge of his blade. But what people didn't understand was that his confidence was not built on victory. It was built on the constant renegotiation of who he believed he was. Confidence, in Musashi's world, was not a destination. It was a discipline, something to sharpen every day, just as meticulously as he sharpened his sword. He began to realize that the foundation of unshakable confidence was not dominance over others, but mastery over the shifting landscape within himself. The mind, left untrained, becomes a battlefield of illusions. Ego, fear, desire, uncertainty, expectations, and memory collide endlessly. A warrior who cannot navigate his inner terrain is defeated long before his opponent raises a weapon. That is why Musashi cultivated an inner structure stronger than the armor of any samurai. A structure made from truth, humility, discipline, and an unwavering ability to look directly at the parts of himself that others would rather ignore. Many imagine confidence as a loud, explosive force, but Musashi experienced it as something quiet, almost invisible. A presence, a groundedness, a steadiness that rose from knowing exactly what he could depend on inside himself. He learned not to rely on external circumstances for validation, because external circumstances shift like wind. If your confidence depends on applause, it will crumble in silence. If it depends on winning, it will die the moment you lose. Musashi built confidence the only way that truly lasts, by making it independent of outcome. One of the most striking insights from his life is how he embraced loss. Not just physical defeat, but the broader concept of losing things people cling to. Reputation, comfort, predictability, admiration, routines. He let these attachments fall away because he understood that every attachment you build becomes a room in which fear can live. This is why he trained himself to be comfortable in every conceivable environment, from the calm of still mornings to the chaos of battlefields. He had the habits of someone who trusted himself, not because he controlled everything, but because he adapted to anything. Confidence does not come from eliminating chaos. It comes from learning to operate within it. Musashi thrived in uncertainty because he trained in uncertainty. While others practiced in ideal conditions, he deliberately practiced in the rain, the cold, the darkness, the unfamiliar. Not because he wanted hardship for its own sake, but because he knew hardship revealed the truth of who you are. When you train only in comfort, you build a fragile version of yourself. When you train in adversity, you build a version of yourself that cannot be easily shaken. Musashi's confidence was not loud, because loudness is often a cover for insecurity. His confidence was silent, because silence is born from certainty. Certainty in his discipline, certainty in his preparation, certainty in the fact that he had already faced himself so honestly that no opponent could introduce him to a part of himself he hadn't already confronted. What many people get wrong is thinking confidence grows in moments of success. Musashi believed confidence grows in moments when you keep going despite having reasons to quit. Not because you feel strong, but because you choose strength. He wrote about the importance of consistency, not in terms of routine, but in terms of alignment. To him, confidence was the result of living in alignment with your principles, even when it hurts, even when nobody sees it, even when it earns you nothing. He believed that every time you betray your values, even in small ways, you weaken the structure of your spirit. This is why he was so brutally honest about his flaws. He understood that integrity is the backbone of confidence. Without integrity, confidence becomes performance. With integrity, confidence becomes identity. You do not have to pretend to be confident when your actions reinforce the version of yourself you respect. There is a point in Musashi's later writings where he describes a realization that changed everything for him. He began to see that the strongest form of confidence came from letting go of the need to protect a specific version of himself. Instead of trying to maintain an image, he embraced transformation. He recognized that clinging to old identities is one of the main reasons people lose confidence as they grow. They fear becoming beginners again. They fear appearing inexperienced. They fear the vulnerability that comes with learning something new. Musashi broke this cycle by becoming a perpetual student. He learned art, calligraphy, carpentry, strategy, philosophy. He allowed himself to be at the bottom again because he understood that humility is not the opposite of confidence. Humility is the root of confidence. When you are not afraid to be a beginner, you are free. When you are not afraid to learn, you evolve. When you are not afraid to be imperfect, you grow beyond the limitations of your ego. Modern psychology reinforces this idea. People who maintain a growth mindset develop what researchers call stable self-worth. They do not attach their value to one skill, one achievement, or one identity. They base their confidence on their ability to adapt, not their need to appear flawless. That is the essence of Musashi's power. He did not attach his confidence to any single thing, not even his sword. This becomes clear in his final duel. He chose to fight not with the weapon that made him invincible, but with a wooden paddle. Something crude, something unexpected. A lesser man would have felt exposed, but Musashi had already transcended the need to prove anything externally. His confidence did not come from mastery of a weapon. It came from mastery of himself. That is why he won, not through superiority of technique, but superiority of presence. This story contains one of the most important truths about confidence. When you no longer depend on external tools to validate your strength, you become powerful in any situation. The weapon becomes irrelevant. The environment becomes irrelevant. The opinions of others become irrelevant. You carry your confidence with you everywhere, because it comes from within. This inner confidence made Musashi immune to the forces that control most people. He was not swayed by praise or threatened by criticism. He did not chase admiration or fear humiliation. He did not need the world to reflect his strength back to him. He knew who he was, and that knowing made him unshakable. There is a moment near the end of his life where Musashi speaks of emptiness. Not emptiness as in nothingness, but emptiness as in liberation. The absence of fear, the absence of ego, the absence of attachment. In this state, confidence becomes effortless. You no longer have to summon it. You simply act. You simply live. You simply are. This is where his brutally honest advice becomes transformative for us today. To build unshakable confidence, you must confront the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. You must embrace discomfort instead of escaping it. You must stop protecting an identity that no longer serves you. You must allow yourself to be both student and warrior, vulnerable and powerful, unfinished and unstoppable. Before we finish, I want to tell you something important. If this message resonates with you, if Musashi's teachings open something inside you, then subscribe to the channel. Because the truth is, growth doesn't happen alone. You need a place that challenges you, supports you, and reminds you of who you're becoming. This channel is that place. Musashi ended his life with a single line: "I have no regrets." And that is the ultimate destination of confidence. When you face yourself honestly, when you choose growth over comfort, when you stop hiding from your own potential, life becomes simple. You act without hesitation. You speak without fear. You pursue without doubt. Because you know that whatever happens, you will not betray who you are. Confidence is not the absence of fear. It is the presence of self-respect. It is the decision to stand with yourself, even when the world stands against you. Musashi discovered this truth through battle, introspection, and relentless discipline. You can discover it through your own journey, your own trials, your own awakening. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you stopped trying to feel confident and started earning it? Where would you go? Who would you become? What would you no longer fear? The path is brutal. The path is honest. The path is yours. And if you walk it with courage, you may just reach the same conclusion Musashi did, that strength was inside you all along, waiting for you to stop protecting your weaknesses and start living your truth.